Good morning everyone. Hi. Today in this video we are going to talk about the lesson banking of macroeconomics. While in this video guys we are going to talk about the two types of banks which we need to study in the chapter, and we are going to understand the functions of each of these two banks. Now, the two banks which we are supposed to study in this chapter is commercial bank and central bank. Let me repeat again, the two banks that we are going to study in this chapter banking is commercial bank and central bank. Well, please understand, this central bank has, I am pretty much sure that all of you will be knowing a name called as Reserve Bank of India, that is RBI. RBI is called the central bank of our country. This central bank also has a separate name, that is Apex Bank, which means it is the head of all the commercial banks which is existing in our country. Let me repeat again, the two types of banks that we are going to study in this chapter banking is one, commercial banks, number two is central bank, which is also called as Reserve Bank of India or RBI, which in other words is also called Apex Bank, whose meaning is that it is the head of all the banks existing in our country. Now, what is a commercial bank? A commercial bank is that kind of bank which generally accepts deposit from public and grant loans to them. Let me repeat again. Commercial bank is that bank which accepts deposits from public and grants loan to them. Please understand, and you will be seeing in your general days that whenever a bank gives loan to public, the rate of interest charged on it is very high. On the contrary, when it accepts deposit from the public, it gives them a lesser rate of interest. So what I'm saying is, when bank gives loans to someone, it charges a high rate of interest, and when bank accepts deposits from someone, it gives the people a lesser rate of interest. The difference between the two interest, the amount of two interest, is the main earning of the bank. Now, any commercial bank performs certain functions. So the functions of commercial banks are divided into two categories. One is primary functions, another is secondary functions. One is primary functions, another is secondary functions. Primary, which means the head, which is the most important. Generally, a commercial bank performs two main things. One is acceptance of deposits, and number two is granting of loans. One is acceptance of deposit and another is granting of loans. Please understand, when a bank accepts deposit of public, this money which the people deposit in their bank, this is the liability for the bank, while at the same time it is the asset of the public. On the contrary, when bank gives loan to the people, loan is an asset for the bank while it is a liability for the public. So the two primary functions of commercial bank, one is granting of loans, number two is accepting of deposits. Talking about secondary functions, there are many functions of commercial bank which it deals with. Number one, you will be knowing that issue of checkbooks and all. Bank, when you will open an account in the bank will issue you a checkbook, ATM card, passbook. These all are the functions of the bank when you can have your transactions done inside the bank. Number two, another function which a bank does is they issue locker facility. They give a locker facility. Number two, secondary function of a commercial bank is they give locker facility. While generally people use the locker for keeping their high valued belongings like gold deposits and all, for which bank charges some interest on a yearly basis. Third secondary functions of bank is, one is issue of checkbooks, passbooks, ATM cards and all. One is secondary function of commercial banks is locker facility. Third function which a bank sometimes does is they give you EMI facility. the banks give you EMI facility. What is EMI facility? Equated monthly installment facilities. What happens is, when you take a loan from bank, and when the time comes for paying off the bank, every time you don't need to go to the bank to pay the loan amount, the monthly loan amount. What the bank does for you is, they'll give you an option to auto debit your amount every month on a fixed specified date, from where you don't have to even go to the bank, and your amount will be deducted. So every time you don't have to go to the bank. This is giving of EMI facility, equated monthly installment facilities. Another fourth one is check clearance. The fourth secondary functions of commercial banks is check clearance. What does check clearance means? Please understand it with an example. Suppose you are having an account in State Bank of India. Suppose you are having an account in State Bank of India, and some other person who is coming to give you money gives you a check of Punjab National Bank. Suppose you are having an account in State Bank of India, and a person gives you a check of 10,000 rupees worth, but the check is of Punjab National Bank. Now you don't have to go to Punjab National Bank to encash the check. What you can do is, you can submit your check to your concerned bank, that is the SBI bank, and they will clear this check and help you receive money. So the four secondary functions of commercial bank, number one, the first one is issue of locker facility. Number two is issue of passbook checkbooks. Number three is provision of EMI. Number four is check clearance facility. Now these were primary and secondary functions of commercial banks. Now let's go on and understand the functions of central bank, which is also the Reserve Bank of India. The first function of RBI is bank of issuing notes. The first function of RBI is bank of issuing notes, which means that only the central bank, that is the RBI, has the authority to issue notes, which means that only the RBI has the right to issue the notes of issuing and printing the notes and giving it to different banks. Number two function is lender of last resort. Number two function of central bank is lender of last resort. Well, lender of last resort, this means that if a commercial bank anytime suffers a problem of finance, then it can directly approach the RBI as a last option. For getting the loan. Now, when the RBI gives loan to the bank, this is done so that the banking system of the country does not suffer. This loan is given by the RBI so that the banking system does not suffer in the economy, and secondly, the market remains stable. If all the people of any particular bank, let's suppose, reach to the bank and ask for their deposits back, the banks will never be in a position to give back their money. So the bank has the last option of RBI from whom they can ask money. So this is called as lender of last resort. Third function of central bank is custodian of foreign exchange. Third function of RBI is custodian of foreign exchange, which means that it is only the RBI which is having all the nation's foreign exchange reserve. It is only the RBI who is having the nation's foreign exchange reserves, and all the holdings that they are keeping with them, from that holdings they are giving partially to the commercial banks respectively. Now RBI is having all the stock of foreign exchange, and from them, not all the money but partially few currencies, foreign exchange currencies, goes to the commercial bank, and then the commercial bank gives it to the general public. Fourth point is clearinghouse function. Let me repeat again. I talked about bank of issuing notes. I talked about lender of last resort. I talked about custodian of foreign exchange. The fourth point is clearinghouse function. Now please try to understand this function through an example. Suppose there are two banks SBI and PNB. Suppose there are two banks, SBI and PNB, where SBI has given a loan of 10,000 crores to PNB and PNB has given a loan to SBI of 20,000 crores. SBI has given a loan of 10,000 crores 6 months back, and now today PNB has given a loan of 20,000 crores to the SBI. Now what happens is, since both the banks have their account with RBI, so the SBI, first of all, since it took a loan of 10,000 crores, it will first ask RBI to debit their account by 10,000 crores and credit PNB's account by 10,000 crores. On the contrary, after this transaction gets completed, PNB will now ask RBI to debit their account by 20,000 crores and credit SBI's account by 20,000 crores. It means both transactions will be done separately, so that all the transactions gets recorded in the system and every bank will know from where they have got money and from whom they have paid and to whom they have paid money. The banks will know, RBI will know, and it will also stop the movement of flow of cash. It will also stop the movement and flow of cash. Another point of functions of central bank is RBI plays as a banker's bank and a supervisor. RBI plays the role of a banker's bank and a supervisor. Well, banker's bank means that if the RBI has same relation with every commercial bank as commercial bank has relation with its public. RBI has relation with every commercial bank in the same way as to how commercial banks has relation with the public. Like public can take loan from RBI, public can take loan from commercial banks, commercial bank can take loan from RBI, public can keep their deposits in commercial banks, commercial banks can keep their deposits in RBI, public can approach the commercial banks for any problem, commercial banks can approach to RBI for any problem. So this is called banker's bank, which means that every commercial bank has same relation with RBI as to how commercial bank has a relation with the public. And supervisory rule means that bank RBI acts as a supervisor. Supervisory rule means that RBI acts as a supervisor. How does it act? It accepts deposit. RBI accepts deposits from commercial bank and gives loan to them. RBI works as a clearing house for every commercial bank, and RBI also stabilizes some monetary policy rates. In my next video, I will be talking about monetary policy rates. RBI also stabilizes monetary policy rates so that inflation and deflation can be controlled. I hope with this, in this video, you will be aware of what RBI is, what commercial bank is, the functions of commercial bank and the functions of RBI. Thank you everyone.